hand. So to get you used to raising your hand, let me ask you a few questions. First of all, anybody on social media in the audience? Social media, okay. Please do turn your phones on. Feel free to take photos, videos, whatnot. And if you're on Instagram, that is our social media platform of choice, I think. Be sure to tag Oxia Theatre in the other palace. If you want to tag me as well, I will share, and it really helps spread the word about the show. Any current or former politicians in the audience? Yeah, you guys raise your hand too. Any former or present civil servants, special advisors in the audience? Nice. Okay. Yes, I had a couple of conversations earlier. Any journalists, Buddhists? No? Okay, fine. Anybody know that they've already got a question they want to ask? Okay, we'll come to you in a moment, sir. Okay, any big fans of the lettuce? Wait, we haven't got the lettuce.
I can get
the lettuce. Who remembers the lettuce? Does everyone remember the lettuce? Excellent. Okay, great. Wonderful. Guys, my name is Terri Paddock. I'm not connected with the theatre or the show, but it is my great pleasure to be able to chair.
Liz lasts longer than lettuce.
That is looking pretty bad.
We it depends how hard I throw it into the drawer every night. At the moment, we're going through one a day.
Oh my gosh, wow, that's bad. So it's my great pleasure to be able to chair post-show discussions. And in fact, this is the second post-show discussion that I have chaired with this wonderful production because about a year ago, the last days of Liz Truss had a second run at the White Bear Theatre. And I was with this panel on the stage for that. And in the true tradition of a honest politician, promise made was that the show would have a further life, promise kept. You are back. So let me introduce you, please, to Emma, our Liz Truss, Greg Wilkinson, the writer, and also husband to Emma. And these two are Oxia Theatre, the wonderful company that has put on the show. Steve Nallon, who is the voice of Margaret Thatcher and everybody else in the show besides Liz Truss, and Anthony Shrubsall, the director. Thank you. Okay. And let me just make sure I've got the timings right. I was trying to figure this out all in my head. So, Greg, do I remember correctly? You had the inspiration to write this show in 2023.
September 2023, which was the first anniversary of Liz getting in.
The first anniversary of Liz getting in. She lost her seat, obviously, in July 2024.
Yeah, so we had the idea. I had the idea. Ran it past Emma. She thought it was a good idea. I did about 2 weeks worth of research. This is definitely a play on this, and then I kind of like effed about with it for about 3 or 4 months. Yeah. And started to write it probably in earnest January, February 2024. And I was conscious that the clock was ticking. I knew that Liz had a book coming out, and I wanted to get the script before 10 Years to Save the West emerged. I didn't quite manage that, but I got the script out just after her book.
Yeah, just remind me when that book was published.
That was April 2024.
April 2024.
So she was still an MP at that point.
Yeah.
And we took the script to Michael at the White Bear, and we said, you can have a rehearsed reading. And we got the rehearsed reading in June 2024, just before the election. And in the first version of the script, we hadn't worked out that Liz might lose her seat.
Yeah.
But we did look forward and predict a few other things.
Yeah.
And then there was the general election, and then she lost her seat. And then we got a second run in December 2024 at the White Bear.
Yeah.
The follow-up run in March 2025. And now we're here.
Yeah. So I was just calculating in my head, okay, so we're 2 years into 10 Years to Save the West. We've got 8 years left. It's looking pretty dicey from my perspective. But let me pull in everyone else. So we were here a year ago. There's clearly been a lot that has changed in the life of Liz Truss, and you've reflected that in the play. But first of all, let's just see, how are you feeling returning to this, and what has changed? Anthony, let me talk with you first.
But I think, yeah, it's the world events, and I think we just acknowledge, getting a sense of how someone that was the Prime Minister of this country, what's her next pitch, really. I think that's the main thing.
Yeah, so it's really all the stuff at the end about Trump, although you don't ever say his name. Why is that? You never say Why do you never say his name?
Because you don't need to, do you? He's just he's such a presence. He always does.
Omnipresent.
Yeah, exactly. And that was one of the things. And maybe we've gone too far with it, but that's one of the things that we're trying to capture is the, as you say, the omnipresence of it. It's almost a kind of sort of big brother.
Yeah.
Literally every time you turn on TV, he's up to something.
Yeah.
And you cannot escape it.
Yeah.
And on a much smaller scale, you've got Liz, as Anthony said, looking for her second act, and she's stumbled around from book launches to hanging around American think tanks, and she's trying to find her groove now with this Liz Truss show thing on YouTube. I don't know, is anybody tuning into the Liz Truss show?
Okay. In preparation, I saw when she launched it, like December, wasn't it? And I saw her little trailer. And I thought, wow, that's something. And yeah, has anyone else watched it?
I've watched all of them.
Oh, you watched all of them?
For research purposes.
It is, yeah. Because I was wondering how much of like the New World Order was taken from what she says in the.
Yeah, like
a lot of it.
Some of it. Yeah, I'm going to let you take that one.
Yeah, I mean, there's some. I don't want to encourage you to watch it too much because I don't want the figures the viewing figures to go up dramatically. But there's some crazy stuff being explored in this Liz Truss show, and I actually found some of it quite unnerving. There's a guy. The stuff at the end about let's get rid of democracy and let's have CEOs and CFOs. That's Curtis Yarvin, who this guy who thinks that the high watermark of English society was the 16th century, where we had absolutely autocratic rule and none of the recognisable parts of the modern state other than maybe the Treasury, and for him that's what we ought to be trying to set up. As a response to quote unquote democracy not working, and Liz Truss is giving this guy airtime with a relatively kind of sort of serious and engaged process of interrogation, and it's because that stuff is starting to ferment, and even if it's relatively kind of sort of cranky stuff in the margins of the internet, just to be able to highlight that and get people to think about that and to get people to react to it was part of what we were trying to do again.
Yeah, yes. I mean, so I did watch some of them, and then I read this wonderful Alan Rusbridger review in Prospect magazine. But going back to like the basis of this play, it really struck me. He ends it by saying, after watching 5 episodes, you pinch yourself that someone so frankly odd could have ended up at the pinnacle of power. Someone so paranoid, unself-aware, one-dimensional, mediocre, charmless, and limited, and so very pleased with herself. But before we get to her new act and everything, this is what I think is captured so beautifully in the heart of this piece. Her rise to glory, and she is just odd, isn't she? What is it like for you, Emma, playing such an odd character?
Yeah, it's been quite a journey, actually. As an actor, like, you can never judge your character. You can't. I can't get on stage. My political views are very left wing. So, but I can't get on stage and not like Liz Truss. So it's been a case of, it's been a huge amount of character development and research. I've read everything she's written. I've watched every video that she's ever done, every podcast she's done. Like the research has been immense. Like I've worked with a voice coach for
10 weeks.
For 10 weeks, we've been listening to all her speeches, slowing down her voice, really identifying the vocal patterns and the vocal tics, working with a movement director to kind of get behind the physicality, because it was really important to me that this wasn't a caricature. It needed to be like leaning into the kind of comedic a little bit. Obviously, it's a comedy in many ways, but it's also quite dark. But I didn't want it to be a caricature. I wanted it to be a 360-degree person who likes herself, who thinks that she's great, because you can't get on stage and play a character when you can't ever judge your character. So getting into her skin, I literally feel like I've been living and breathing this Truss for months.
That takes a toll, I imagine.
Yeah, but fun, fun, and I think for me as well, it was very important to portray the humanity, because I think what happened was, on one level, really quite shocking. And then when you see the images coming up here in the theatre tonight, I mean, the woman was eviscerated, she was destroyed. And I think it's really easy to forget that there was a real woman, a woman behind all of that. And to kind of recognise that that must have been hell, you know? But, you know, hats off to her. Most people would have crawled under a rock, and she hasn't. But I wanted to kind of get that, you know, the humanity of it across a little bit. We've had some, you know, reviews saying they wanted more caricature and parody. That is absolutely not what we're doing. Completely misunderstood the piece. It's about conveying, you know, a very tumultuous and chaotic time, but it's also about telling the story of a woman who really went through it. You know.
Watching it again, I had great sympathy for her, and actually watching it again makes me have more sympathy for the office of Prime Minister as well. I'm starting to think it's almost an impossible job in the current state of the world. Steve, how many extra voices have you had to have a go at this time around?
I think this time we didn't use Trump before, but I think
We used Trump.
one line of Trump. It's not my best voice, but I think we give you 6 options. Chose the best one.
And Emma is talking about 10 weeks that she's been working. She worked on getting Liz's voice correct. You do so many voices. Are there different techniques that you use according to the different voices
well,
you do?
with Quasi, was just to do it at the very beginning of the day because he's got a very deep voice. So as your voice, your larynx essentially stretches as the day goes on, and therefore if you want to get the deeper resonance, you've got to do that first, and to make some distinction between the voices, just put various accents on, really. I mean, that's the trick.
Yeah. And I think we counted before, but I've forgotten. How many voices are you doing?
I can't remember, but
it's 33.
It's 33.
The magic number.
33. And there was some extra. We did the extra visual this time as well.
Yeah, there was a couple of extra lines, and I think there was Nigel Farage and whatever. Yes.
And the Hoskins side.
The Hoskins.
The Hoskins
Yes, that was new. That was a new addition. That was quite a scary diagram.
Yeah.
Do you have a favourite voice that you do?
Not really, no. I mean, I'm very happy. You know, I'm always happy to bring back. I don't know why, but you know, I do. I have a reputation for doing alpha women.
Okay.
I think that's from my grandmother, who was an alpha, very strong northern woman, and I think that. I mean, without turning it into a term, you know, I don't really do that many modern voices. But one of them is Anne Widdicombe. There is an alpha woman for you if ever there was. But no,
Can you do Liz Truss?
No, I stopped doing voices, sort of contemporary voices about 10 years ago.
Okay.
So I haven't really kept up to date with it. But I think what you're saying really is that if you are performing as a character, you've got to, as an actor, you've got to be the advocate for that character. And you can't stand aside from it. You've got to, not necessarily, I'll tell you a quick anecdote. I was working as a voice coach on a musical about Margaret Thatcher, which was about 20 years ago. And it was a very left-wing company. And the voices they had were very good, but it was unconvincing. And the only way I could get them to be convincing, I said, look, forget the script. Go away and write your own political views that you believe in. They're okay. Then they came back and said, now read your views as Margaret Thatcher's voice. And then they realised that they were believing what they said. And they couldn't quite say the words of Margaret Thatcher because they simply didn't believe them. I said, you've got to get over that. You can't. And it was a musical, but it was a serious show. And I said, you've got to get over this hurdle of and just make it believable, because that's what she was. She was a conviction politician, and in a way, Liz Truss is exactly the same. I mean, bonkers, but nevertheless, completely convinced of her right.
You mentioned, Emma, it's wonderfully put, Steve. You know, that you do believe in her. You have to you have to like her to do it. But I wonder, has it changed you politically, saying those words, saying Liz's words and her beliefs?
I don't think it's changed me politically. Obviously, I sort of care that I'm an actor. I'm not an economist or a PPE grad or anything like that. And one of the first things I did when I got given the script was write down all of the concepts and terms that I didn't understand, and it was about 10 pages long. And like getting my head around all that. I think what I've come away with is like, I think it hasn't changed my views politically. I'm definitely more empathetic to her and what went on. And like you were saying, much more empathetic to the magnitude of the task of being, of holding that type of office. I honestly don't know why anybody wants to do it. But obviously everyone's different, but that's fine. But it hasn't changed me politically, but it's definitely shifted something within me in terms of how I view her.
And a wonderful interview, Greg, that you did recently. You said you'd love to get Liz Truss to come see the show, if only so that you could have a photo of Emma and Liz together for Instagram. Have you invited her, and what has she said?
No, because I want to leave her alone. In a very real sense, I think she's already been hounded enough. And we did think about doing some flyering around the village, and I know roughly where she lives, but I don't want to go and stick a leaflet through her.
No,
I think she
not right.
Yeah, she knows about this. When she wants to come, she's very welcome to come and have a photo opportunity with the two of us. But she's given us enough already because she's given us the material for the play.
So, gentlemen, here, you still have a question?
I wanted to say first that I think the writer owes a debt of gratitude to the actor for memorising 2 hours what he didn't have to monologue and delivering it utterly completely.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. And I don't know, I'm going to pose into a question, and I will say at the end to Greg, are you happy that the performance came out as empathetic as it has? Because I feel much kinder towards her than I did at the time.
Yeah, I mean that was the intention in writing the play. I mean, my stance is always trying to get a sense of sympathy and empathy and curiosity about subjects, and if I can't get that, then the play doesn't really take off. And as you said, that there is a part, I think, maybe all of us. I certainly felt it. And the press conference in number 10, which took questions from the journalists and the radio interviews, my heart went out to her. And however much I disagree with her politics, I just feel just pain when someone's going through it. In the same way that some people may remember Gordon Brown before the 2010 election, getting into the situation with Gillian Duffy with his microphone. So I think, poor guy. And funny enough, that was the moment at which I went out and started to do some canvassing for Labour in the 2010 election. Yeah, that's right. And it's just like I'm too soft for frontline politics, because when I see someone going through pain, I don't enjoy it. And,
they are exposed, aren't
they? And this is the thing. It's a tough gig at any level. I mean, I did it to local council level. It was moderately tough there. When you get to the national level, it's a horrible industry.
Even when there's dogmatic arrogance,
you're breaking my rule. I brought it.
Yeah.
What's the question, Damien?
But even when their dogmatic arrogance has preceded their fame, you still feel sorry for them?
Yeah, Yes, I do, because to some extent the dogmatic arrogance sort of goes with the territory at that level. It's very hard to do that job as a normal, balanced human being. You've got to have more fun than Harrods. You've got to have utter and complete self-belief, and in pretty much every case, that creates the seeds of its own downfall. Even in leaders who, and again, I don't share politics, but actually from a technical point, you can see the immense nature of the Thatcher achievement, and at the same time you can see the seeds of 1990 in the end being there from the start. And that's what I think what makes politics and theatre quite interesting companions.
And they say, isn't it, that every politician's career ends in failure.
Death or failure.
Enoch Powell.
Yeah.
Every politician's career ends in failure by definition, and I think that's true. Even Tony Blair, who went out to great applause, will not be remembered for the applause in the House of Commons, but for the legacy in the Middle East, and that is a failure. And looking at the last batch of prime ministers, you may even include this one, it's going to end in failure, and that's just the nature. And in a way, I did a play called Dead Sheep, which was about Mrs. Thatcher's relationship with Geoffrey Howe. And it was interesting. The guy had done lots of research, and I was struck by the fact that Margaret was saying to Geoffrey, "I can't be wrong. You know, if I do an interview, I can't be wrong, and if I am wrong, it will be pointed out to me, but I can't admit that I'm wrong." And everybody makes mistakes, and a mistake was made by a politician today, quite a major mistake, but we all make mistakes, but politicians aren't allowed to make mistakes. And it's a tough gig, you're right, it's tough. I wouldn't go near it.
I'm looking for other hands. Any other hands? Yeah, back row, please.
Question for all the panel. Has any of the research that you did on this project given you any insight into why so many women end up in the Conservative Party, but not so many leave the other party?
It's interesting, yes. Why do, for all of them,
Well,
all of the women shortlisted the Labour Party?
I think part of the reason is the legacy that Thatcher has left over, and it's really quite deeply rooted in Conservative Party culture. You can get a poster. We thought about buying this poster and simply went for that because that's a free JPEG. But you can spend 30 quid at the Conservative Party shop online, and you can get this picture of Thatcher with a little 50th anniversary logo in the corner, and she's still describing the world like a colossus in the Conservative Party.
I mean, in the Daily Mail thing, did you notice it said 3-0 to the Tories, regarding the prime ministers, and so it is it's sort of ingrained in a concept of success for them, in relation to that. And I think that the rest of the political world is struggling to make sense of it. I don't know why.
Okay, hold on a moment. Did I see a hand over here?
Maybe.
Oh, yes. Question from one of Emma's students.
Hi, Emma.
Hello, Lee.
My question is actually to you, Emma.
Okay.
How the hell did you learn all that? Because, what we're doing right now at drama school, with
Animal Farm.
Animal Farm and everything like that.
So just for a bit of context, I teach at drama schools. I'm currently I teach acting and voice at LMA London, which is the Robbie Williams outfit in London. And I teach, these are some of my lovely first year students, and I'm currently directing them in a production of Animal Farm.
Yeah. My question is, how long did it take you to learn the actual play?
To learn it?
Yeah.
It took a long time. I mean, I probably spent. I'm not a massive believer in just learning by rote text, because I think you have to get the thoughts behind the text in order for the text to go in.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of work on the text, because I couldn't possibly begin to think about learning things about currency markets, and like, if I don't understand it. Yeah, so the thoughts had to be there. So there was probably like 4 weeks research behind the text, like uniting it up. I can show you the script. Uniting it up, making it like manageable bite-sized chunks of text. I'm going to say that probably learning it took like 2 months. Like once I'd done a month's preparation on the text, but it had to, like for me, like doing all the work on the text, like the subtext and the uniting and the thoughts and all of that. Once you've done all of that really deep work on what the character's saying, the text is in. I'm not one for just like learning it by rote, because it's very surface if you do it that way. It has to come from like inside, really. But yeah, I reckon like let's say like 8 to 12 weeks.
And it helps, I suppose, with this that it is fairly linear. It's a chronological story of a real life person.
Yeah, that helps.
And we lived through it all.
Yeah.
But I was really, I know you actors don't read all reviews, but you've had such great reviews. But there was one from this current run that really amused me, because it started talking about, it's a fascinating piece if you want to, look at historical figures. And I'm like, wow, that must have been written by a very young person. 2022 is considered history.
Oh my god.
And that some people still, some of these names already are being lost to people who aren't following it. I suppose that also is a sign. I think a lot of us, past 10 years, have been so turbulent, haven't they? And a lot of us do just want to tune it all out now. Do you find that?
Yeah, I struggle to watch the news at the moment.
Okay, are you going to be brave? Be
Sure.
brave. No.
Since I don't journalist in the room.
Okay.
So my name is Benjamin. I'm from the Netherlands. I grew up around theatre because my mother ran a theatre company in Parliament in Holland. Moved here, and I've been in civil service, working with the Department for International Trade since 2019. So I've seen a lot up close. And since there are no journalists in the room, then I'll maybe tell you the anecdotes.
It is being recorded, though.
It's being recorded.
Yes.
I'm impressed with the portrayal and the detail and the performance. Really fantastic. Really admire it. It's interesting. When she was, I can say in general terms, when she was at DIT, she was genuinely respected for being a hard worker, and that comes across in the play as well. She really worked other people hard, because we were in a situation where we left the EU. All of the EU and third country trade agreements had to be renegotiated. So it's not just the 4 big new free trade agreements, but all the other ones that were already placed had to be redone. And the department, its trade policy used to be like 40 people in the Department for Business working by the EU. And when I joined in 2019, it was this massive wave of recruitment. The trade policy group had grown to 900 people in a very short period of time. Everybody had to learn trade policy negotiations from scratch. And despite all of that, there was a huge amount of innovation going on as well. And she came in on that. She worked this really hard. The thing with her is she was also very inconsistent. So there was this impulsiveness around decision making. Briefings, when a subject didn't interest her, she would just give them scripts, and she just read the lines and didn't care. The opposite of the but there was that. But there were some things where she would then dive in and micromanage those things that she did care about. But I was in a team that was created newly to do some long-term strategic thinking when everybody else was running around on the hamster wheel trying to race against time on things. And so we had sort of the headspace to think about longer term. And some of my colleagues were working on trying to figure out a vision, get a vision agreed for a future trade strategy. Now we have a trade strategy, several governments later. But at the time, she basically sent them back every week. Like, here's the thing you asked for. It's like, oh, do something else. And then again, like, okay, here's the thing you asked for. It's like, oh, Like, no, I'll do it differently. And so there was that. And I experienced that myself as well, because she revived the board of trade in Britain in a way as well. She started the process, or they had it, which has now been ended, the customer. The board of trade meets every quarter to release a paper with some interesting policy ideas. And it formally came from the board of trade, even though it was written by civil servants. So it was like her way of influencing government, partially from the inside, partially from what's put on the outside. And I was the pen holder of the first board of trade paper, and because of the timing, she was on some big Asian adventure, it was before Christmas. I had to mobilize a whole bunch of people. I hammered out a first draft in a really short period of time, got it cleared, put it to her desk. And again, she did the same thing, like, oh, we'll do something differently.
So you think they nailed it with the...
Oh, it's supposed to portray. I mean, you don't need to go into this kind of detail, these kind of anecdotes, but there's probably a lot more people who experience things like that.
It's useful for me to hear these.
Yeah, no, but it's interesting. But
did you have a question, Benjamin?
no, not really.
Okay.
I just want to share a story.
Okay, yes, question here.
Hello.
So obviously I followed you on social media anyway, so I kind of think you're doing so like your hair, you dyed it.
Yeah.
Roll?
Yeah. So normally I have long dark hair. So at the moment I'm kind of waking up in the morning, going to the mirror and going, oh, okay. Yeah. So it's a blonde bob. I did it. I can't do wigs. Well, obviously I could if I had to, but for me, I did try a wig. I was worrying about the wig. The minute you're worrying about wigs, you're not in the character. And also, this feels authentic. This is coming from inside me. It's organic. A wig is something that you put on over the top. It feels fake, because it is fake, I suppose. So we did try a wig, but actually I much prefer just, because the minute you are worrying about anything like costume or wig or anything, you are not in the character.
And the dresses that you wear, are they actually dresses that she wears?
So no, what we've done, I have researched where she gets her dresses from, because she does wear similar dresses in different colours. Yeah. Quite often they've got sleeves down to here so we've gone with a low neck, but they're quite fitted. Again, it's this thing about not wanting to kind of imitate or parody or caricature. It's about an essence and how I can best reflect that. So the necklace, she wears something that looks a little bit like this, but it's not this. She wears the earrings, but they're not those earrings. She wears a red swatch, but it's not that, or a red watch, but it's not that red watch. So it was important to kind of capture the essence of her. So the dresses are colours that I haven't seen her wearing, admittedly. She wears a lot of red at the moment. But we're in 2022 as well, remember? Yeah. We're not in the now.
And the original earrings were from Claire's.
The original earrings were from Claire's,
That's
yes.
why you said it in the
Yeah.
I hesitate to psychoanalyze, given I'm not a psychiatrist and I've never met this woman, but it feels to me, especially the way that you portray her story, do you think that she was broken by what happened to her, and what has happened to her since? She has gone down a quite conspiracy-filled route, and you can see the nubs of it in what you portray, but she's kind of gone much deeper down that rabbit hole.
It's really difficult to answer that. And I can only project my emotions onto that experience, and I think if it had been any of us, we would have been broken to smithereens by it. But politicians are, in my limited experience of them, they're generally made of slightly different material, and they just have the ability. I mean, even Starmer has the ability just to keep getting up and going on in the face of almost kind of insurmountable odds and incredible levels of hostility, and he just doesn't seem to care. And I think if you're wired that way, you can do it, and you can do it to quite a high level, and you don't get as damaged as the rest of us would be by the experience.
I remember watching some film footage of Richard Nixon before he made his farewell address. And of course, the farewell address was very, very serious. But he was laughing and joking. They are made of something entirely different, politicians. It's not water off a duck's back, but they sort of absorb it. They absorb the criticism, but they get shouted at all the time. And Thatcher became, I think, just immune to criticism and the shouts and the abuse. It was just part of her day.
I was thinking all week, I wonder what would be happening now if Liz Truss was Prime Minister this week. We could be in a very different place, couldn't we? Okay, so final question, quick one. We are the producers, the programmers for the Liz Truss show. Who would you invite as the guest onto the Liz Truss show? She's had Steve Bannon, she's had Curtis Yarvin, she's had so many. Anthony, who would you invite onto the Liz Truss show?
Oh God. Well, I mean, is Putin allowed on?
Yeah, we'll have him. Steve Nallon, who would you invite onto the Liz Truss show?
The ghost of Margaret Thatcher.
Very good. Greg, who would you invite?
God, it's a hard one. I'd have Curtis Yarvin back because he's such good value.
Very good.
Yeah. Honestly, absolutely.
I think she should invite you.
Yeah, maybe she should.
Yeah, very good. Yeah. In the meantime, remind us, Emma, this is the last days of Liz Truss, and it is here at the Other Palace until
Sunday, the 15th of March.
And then, what is the next stage for the show?
So we're taking it up to Edinburgh this year. We've just signed a contract. Well, I just signed a contract, haven't we? We are taking it up to Edinburgh for the final.
Paid some money, I think.
Yeah, we're giving some money. It's going to Edinburgh for a week at the end of August. We would very much like it to be picked up by somewhere for like a full 6 to 8 week run. We'd also love to take it to off-Broadway. I think it would land very well over there. She's quite active in America. So we do have, this is not, as far as we're concerned, this is absolutely not the last time that the show will go up. She's the gift that keeps on giving. It's relevant. It's a hugely relevant piece of theatre. You know, obviously it is about Liz Truss. She's the mouthpiece, but it's a warning, really. It's a kind of a wake-up call. That's what the theatre company does. We hold up a mirror, and people might not like it, and people might not like the messages that we kind of, not that we have the answers, but just like to provoke the kind of thinking. It's a very relevant piece of theatre, which takes, a very wide, broad look at a lot of very critical geopolitical issues at the moment. So we would very much like to hope that it gets picked up by somebody and we can do a full 6 to 8 week run somewhere. Although that would probably kill me. And we'd really like to take it over to America. Yeah.
Well, fantastic. I look forward to seeing the next iteration. Now, audience, you are now champions for the show, so please go forth and tell everyone to come see it here at the Other Palace between now and the 15th of March. Come again. And when we give them all a big clap, we're also going to do a budge up and we're going to do a group shot. So get your phones out, take photos of that, and share them on social media, please. And please join me in thanking Anthony, Steve, Greg, and Emma, and the letters.